Good evening, Michelle. I'm so delighted to see you.
It's so
It's
great
so
to
great
be
to be
here.
here.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much
having
for
me.
having me. Thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy performing, teaching, and everything else schedule, which we'll get to hear about your life in a moment. I think you just finished teaching a student.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
actually in a studio right now in Leadfest Hall at Curtis, and just finishing up for the school year, which is could not come sooner. As much as I love this the students here, we're all looking forward to that holiday break, I'm sure.
I think so. Well, I'm just really delighted you're here. And I want to welcome everybody as people join the show. This is actually Tea with Mimi, episode number 39, the show that I started during the COVID pandemic just to be able to share music from my phone at a time when we were not playing for people and we all missed it so much. But it's been just so exciting to see how the show has evolved, being able to have amazing guests and chat and share music and conversation is so wonderful. So I'm going to officially introduce you now, Michelle, now that we've been talking. But I'm just so happy to have with me tonight my friend, pianist Michelle Cann. She has been described as exquisite by the Philadelphia Inquirer and a pianist of sterling artistry by Gramophone. Michelle Cann is one of today's most celebrated pianists, and she has appeared as soloist with numerous major orchestras, including the Chicago Symphony, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the LA Philharmonic, National Symphony Orchestra, Orquesta Sinfónica Municipal de Sao Paulo, and many others. She's the winner of the Sphinx Medal of Excellence, the Andrew Wolf Chamber Music Award, among other awards and prizes, and is the 2024 inaugural Crystal DeHaan Artistic Partner of the American Pianists Association, where she oversees the American Pianists Awards. Michelle is known as a champion of the music of Florence Price and gave the New York premiere of the Piano Concerto in One Movement, as well as the Philadelphia premiere of the concerto with the Philadelphia Orchestra and Yannick Nézet-Séguin. Also, her recording of the work with the New York Youth Symphony won the Grammy for Best Orchestral Performance in 2023. That's awesome. Congratulations. You can tell us about your current Grammy nomination in a moment, too. We'd love to hear about that for all listeners out there. And Michelle has done chamber music and other collaborations with major artists and ensembles. She received her bachelor's and master's in music from the Cleveland Institute of Music, her artist diploma from the Curtis Institute of Music, so we share the alma mater there. And she is at Curtis, the inaugural Eleanor Sokoloff Chair in Piano Studies since 2020, and also a member of the faculty of Manhattan School of Music. So once again, Michelle, welcome. I can't wait to hear some music together and talk to you about your wonderful and busy career.
Thanks
Thanks
again.
again. Thank you. So I think it'd be wonderful just to start with some of your music, and it was so delightful to listen to some of what you sent me. The Clara Schumann four pieces, the Quatre pièces fugitives, is such a beautiful work. I mean, I'm sure we have many pianists who will be listening, but they were new to me, even though I already love the music of Clara Schumann. So if you could introduce that piece, then we'll hear some music. That would be lovely.
Yes, you're going to hear the Clara Schumann four romances, and this is you're absolutely right. It's a work that was new to me as well. I was really diving more into Clara Schumann's story and her contribution to the repertoire, which was not only so important just in what she wrote herself, but she was actually the go-to person for her husband Robert Schumann and for Johannes Brahms as one of his most closest friends and advisors, and potentially maybe even something more. Maybe he wanted that, but at any rate, there was they were really they trusted her opinion on music um and really looked to her for guidance. So at any rate, I always knew of her in that light. And so then, as I went and dove into some of her own compositions, I came across these beautiful pieces, just randomly, really, just looking, through YouTube searches. And I just fell in love with them. I mean, they're like really just little. I could think of them in certain ways, especially the first one as like an art song, little poems of their own, not really based on anything with lyrics or anything like this, but just absolutely beautiful short pieces that all have very different characters. So I think
I
it's
think it's
a great way to bring us into her music.
absolutely. And now we'll cue it up. Brava, Michelle. That is absolutely gorgeous. Before we talk about the Clara Schumann, I'm just working out a tiny tech thing. Hi, Michelle. I don't see you. Let's see if we can bring you back video wise. Okay. Thanks for texting. Michelle Cann's connection keeps dropping. I think she's probably leaving and coming back. But welcome everybody who just heard some of that gorgeous performance by Michelle Cann of Clara Schumann's four pièces fugitives. Incredibly generously of Michelle, she has shared the entire work. So I just shared one piece plus a little bit more. Welcome to Tea with Mimi. Please comment and say hello. We'd love to know where you're listening from. And of course, what you're drinking, whether it's tea or something else. Other beverages are allowed. I see Rick Rosen of Cordis Mundi wrote, beautifully expressive. My goodness. Absolutely. And Donna Stebbins, hello. California. So lovely. So we have a wonderful choral director and flutist here so far. Please say hello and thank you for your comments. We really look forward to your comments and questions for pianist Michelle Cann, who is just rejoining. Okay, I think her video is hopefully rejoining. Here she is. Excellent. Um, we probably don't have to mute because of the little tech fix anymore.
Perfect.
Michelle, that is such a gorgeous velvety performance.
Thank you. And I'm so embarrassed. I called them the romances because she wrote romances for violin and then didn't even call the right pieces, four pieces fugitive. So that's so embarrassing. But as I mentioned, they are character pieces. And again, you heard a little bit of, you heard number 1 and 2, but the whole set is worth listening to.
Absolutely, just completely in this tradition of the concert piece or the Concertstücke. I guess she used French, but so many of the Schumann, both Clara and Robert pieces, are more in the German title vein. But this idea of the contrasting character pieces is so much in this whole circle. You were talking about the Schumanns and Brahms, right? So anyway, thank you. I just wanted to lead off on that. And actually, I'm thrilled to see that Samuel Zeman, composer Samuel Zeman, is here, and he says hello to us and said beautiful performance to you. And I just let him know that you'd be on and I'd be sharing some of our performance of his extraordinary second sonata for flute and piano that we performed on the Curtis on tour of Latin America. It was actually a tour of many countries that became virtual because 2021. So I think we'll actually launch into that music a little bit and then talk some more. But it was just so wonderful to work with you as part of that project and to do Samuel's piece. So I think we're going to start it out. It actually starts with the flute solo and builds up when piano joins. And it's definitely not a sonata allegro movement in that sense, because it's like a slow, fast, slow shape, and we're probably gonna just do the first part of it. But I absolutely love this very compelling emotional work. Anything you want to add, Michelle, before we sample some of it?
Simply that it was really such a joy to get to know this piece for the first time and work with you on this. As you said, it develops. You don't expect where it ends up. I guess I'll put it that way. The way that it's like very free in your beautiful opening, and then we get into the heart of the piece with some really great rhythms. And it was a challenge for me initially as I was working it out, but I had so much fun recording that with you, and I wish we had some live performances. But you will enjoy this, and so happy to see the composer is here.
Oh, yes. Thank you for coming, Samuel. And absolutely, we'll have to plan our live performances of it next. And I'm about to share the opening and then we'll chat some more. There's no good place to stop with all the perpetual motion and buildup of that super exciting piece by Samuel Zeman. Oh, let's unmute you. Oops.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I totally agree with you. I know there's no it really is it's a great piece. I was like, oh, we're just getting into it.
I know. So it was just really fun to revisit that. And again, thank you, Samuel, for tuning in tonight and for your words about the performance. We can't wait to perform it again. And
Yes.
Ronnie Gordon, mom, and Dolce Suono Ensemble Board chairwoman, wrote exquisite performance of the first movement of the stunning Sonata Number 2. Brave, Mimi and Michelle. Bravo, Samuel Zeman. Thank you. Mom, so
Oh,
yeah. Oh, and Cordus Mundi, one of the choruses conducted by Rick Rosen. Wow, you guys. So yeah, there's actually more of the whole performance and our whole tour performances on YouTube as well. We filmed that at Curtis, and then it was shown in many countries like Mexico, Chile, Peru, Colombia, Argentina, I think, and we had virtual events, which was so much fun. I think we're so busy getting ready to do that, and other times we've seen each other briefly. We haven't had a chance to chat. So I'm just really happy to get to know a little bit more about you and your artistry, Michelle. And I think just, having enjoyed this great range of repertoire that you play, what attracts you to certain repertoire? I'm curious if there's something that kind of grabs you or that you feel is signature for you.
um, I think there's such a there's so many answers to that question because I think it just really depends because I find myself drawn to so many different styles and genres. Within the solo repertoire for piano, I do so much, collaboration, which I love, which introduces me to more composers all the time. And so I think that I just try to have a very open mind. And if something excites me or it's an opportunity that, intrigues me, then I say yes, I go for it, and then I see where it takes me. And I think that that's really served me well because that's kept me curious and it's kept me again learning more and more, not only from composers of today like Mr. Ziman, but also of composers of the past that might not have been celebrated as much as they should be. So again, I talk about Clara Schumann. I mean, yes, many know her, but do we really know her, or do we really know her music? I mean, oh, I played her piano concerto this past season, which is such an amazing piece and actually very difficult. It's a short concerto. It's only about 20 minutes. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's only about 20 minutes, but it is extremely difficult in those 20 minutes. I mean, it was really a challenging concerto and beautiful. I mean, it really should be a piece that we hear more, but I'd never heard it before.
Mhm.
So again, she was one, but from the past. And then Florence Price, as you mentioned, who has definitely been an inspiration to me. And she's, if anybody on here doesn't know who she is, she's a Black American composer from she was born in 1887, so, and then a lot of like the bulk of her repertoire was in 1930s, and she was this fabulous composer and pianist, but being that she was a Black woman at the time, she had so many obstacles put in front of her to not essentially get her reach much farther than Chicago, which was her main city for a while. But I never knew of her. I mean, I grew up not knowing of her. I went to school not knowing of her. And when I got to know her, it wasn't until 2016.
Mhm.
So I fell in love with her music. And so then it became, as soon as I read her story and realized, oh my goodness, this needs to be heard. Well, that was my focus, right? So I don't know that I actually have a method or that I go out looking for things. I feel like they find me very, interesting composers, interesting music, and I think that's the fun of it. I just kind of never know what the next thing will be.
Well, it's really great. As a pianist, you have so much great repertoire, and this is from my standpoint as a flutist, right? With the smaller solo and chamber rep, and not as many famous composers, and so it's really nice that you go outside the war horses, which you do beautifully, and also bring to light some piano rep that is less known. And yeah, I was just going to say maybe it's time for a tea break. Michelle, what are you drinking right now?
Mine is less exciting. I would. Your tea looks wonderful, especially with the glass. Honestly, just at the moment, water, and I think that this is a typical teacher need, right? Is replenishing yourself between a long day of teaching. But trust me, if I had the time and I wanted to, I wasn't able to get home. I would have had a
Well,
nice hot cup of something.
oh, I would love to share this peppermint tea with you right now, Michelle. But yeah, next time we'll meet for some actual tea. But that's good. No, water is absolutely the drink of champions who are busy playing and teaching. Yes, or sometimes tea. So friends, let us know what you're drinking this evening. It could be anything, of course, on Tea with Mimi. But yeah, getting back to your work with Florence Price, and I actually have a bit of her piano sonata that is available on your YouTube that we can share. But I'm just really interested in how you discovered her music, and also whether some of the pieces you've played came from the cache of manuscripts that were only discovered in 2009. So, I mean, she died in 1953, and it was almost half a century that nobody, or more than that, that people didn't even know this music was sitting in one of her houses, I think, and it could have just all been lost to history. Have you played music from that, or how did you source your Florence Price?
Well, that was literally how I got to know her first. So her piano concerto
Mhm.
was one of the pieces that was found in her, it basically was found in the attic of her old summer home. And again, had been there since she died in the 50s. So absolutely decades, as you mentioned. The piano concerto, along with a violin concerto, one of the symphonies, many other things. So when I learned the piano concerto, that's when I learned of like her, and then also all of this music that had not been published, that had not been played. Now her piano sonata, which you're going to play some of it, was one of the few things that was published.
Mhm.
I think it might have been after her death, but it was published. And there were some things that were during her time, but the majority of the 200 plus pieces she wrote went unpublished, and forgotten,
Yeah.
or even lost in the case of the boxes of music. So it's very, very exciting. One of the really exciting things with Florence Price currently for me is that I recorded, we released it in August, uh, called Beyond the Years, an album with the really wonderful soprano Karen Slack. And this is a collection of songs, not all of them, but the majority are unpublished Florence Price songs that were found in that box as well. And again, everything that was found was in manuscript form. So you had to get someone to take what was just handwritten manuscript and make it readable for others. And so one composer, which is the partner that we had in this project, this organization, they took it upon themselves to kind of get the manuscripts and try to notate them in such a way so that we could learn and record them. And
Mhm.
it was fascinating. Having known her music, I had no reference for a lot of these songs because, again, no one had heard them or knew of them, but I knew of her style a little bit. So we really got to discover kind of our own interpretation of it. But we were so excited to put it out there for the world to hear. And then even more exciting was it was nominated for a Grammy just a month ago. And so we're very excited to go to the Grammys in February. Definitely hoping for a win, but just very exciting and honored to even be part of the nomination in that category. And we're just so excited to get more eyes on that music as well. So that's like kind of very current, exciting uh stuff that came out of the boxes.
I see. Oh, congratulations, Michelle.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear those songs. And that is amazing that they were from those boxes. And actually, I went to Curtis with Karen Slack, so I've known her a very long time.
Oh, great. I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't wait to get to know more of Price's music through this recording. But one thing that's really interesting to me, just having studied, especially women composers and then some African American composers in the U.S., just the level of discrimination that they faced was, astounding. And actually, Price, I think, has a quote where she says, she faced two handicaps, sex and race. It just amazing to think about that. She was educated at New England Conservatory. And just as a Boston born person, I want to just do a quick comment about how I am proud of NEC for accepting women students and African American students before many schools even would do that. And this is actually quite interesting because Price's teacher George Chadwick, or one of her teachers, had also kind of supported the early career of Amy Beach. So we're like, digging into late history with this, but it was definitely like an important center that was more open to women and minorities having careers in music at a time when it was really, really difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we're going to go to some Price, and then we have some interesting questions that maybe we'll deal, but I think with after. But I think while it's sort of fresh and your introduction to this music, I would love to hear the opening of the piano sonata in E minor, which I think this is one that you recorded at Curtis, I believe.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do the share. Bravo! Wow, that is a gorgeous performance, Michelle.
Thank you so much. It's definitely a favorite, absolute favorite piece of mine of hers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just bring out everything that's in the music. It's so colorful and it has like jazzy moments, but just so lush and
It
just
is. You hear in that first movement a lot of how she mixes genres really well. I mean, you hear the spirituals in there. She was very connected to African American spirituals in her writing. You especially hear it in the second movement. And then little, like you said, moments that you would see as jazzy, these little dance moments. And then at the same time, it's like steeped in like romanticism and that,
yeah.
like a lot of chords and progressions that fit into the romantic structure of writing. And she was very inspired by a lot of the romantic composers like Brahms and Schumann and such. So
Yeah, no, you totally hear that. And even just on
yeah.
like a music theory kind of nerd level, just the blending of the diatonic and the chromatic is so seamless and beautiful and just kind of enriches the whole language.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like for me,
Yeah,
I like to really jazz it up and make it my own. It's like
yeah.
it's a little bit of kind of my own personal connection to how I take those moments in the music, and really make it feel free and fresh. You know what I mean? So that's what I love. It's like she writes it in a way that's very fresh and very
Mhm.
original, and you really make it your own.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean, and especially because you've worked with some of the manuscript material for some of her works. Like, is she a profuse marker or leaving a lot up to the performer in general?
I would somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Yeah.
She did like one thing that I talk about a lot when I play her music is that, and it's actually interesting. She'll put a lot of markings in the score with like ritenuto or retard. And in this, what I've come to realize that I've done enough of her music is that if you look at it literally, then it could literally create this sense that the music is constantly sort of not moving forward. But her use of the ritenuto was more to be a way to remind the person to stretch. And I actually felt that it was probably because she came across, students or performers that weren't really naturally understanding the freedom that was allowed in the music. So it was a way of trying to like contrive it. And so
Mhm.
it is interesting. In that sense, I would say that she sort of over-notated that idea. But at the same time, I think that it's getting to know someone's voice, really understanding their voice. Then you understand what it is they're trying to say, even though they're not here.
Yes. Well, that was just beautifully put because as you're speaking about some of the markings, the ritenutos, signaling something to the performer, I was thinking about just every composer's vocabulary, but of the written words is so different, and it is about unpacking that. Like Poulenc, famous flute and piano sonata, died just a few years after Price.
Mhm.
Everything means a certain thing. Like you see a cede and it's like yielding. It's not necessarily slow down a lot. Like that kind of um, thing is just so interesting to learn. But
Mhm.
I thank you so much for introducing me to much of Price's music here through your performances and to so many of
Sure.
it. Yeah. And we have just lovely comments. Thank you, Samuel, who wrote a beautiful comment about our performance of his piece so that he could tune in. And we have a really interesting question from Donna Stevens, who is a flutist. And she writes about the positioning of flute to piano. So, like with our back to you as the pianist, she mentioned that sometimes it's awkward not being able to see each other.
Mhm.
But thanks, Donna. She notes that we're so well coordinated. Do we just use our ears? I think a huge amount is listening. And my sense is that you probably see my body breathing at all times. That's one thing that Charlie Abramovic, my duo pianist of many years, has noticed. Like I might not have to look him in the eye, but he actually sees me. But what's it like for you, Michelle, in that spot?
Oh, no, absolutely the same. I mean, I think, for pianists especially, we're accustomed to collaborating with really so many different instruments, um, with so many different like groups of instruments, not always just one on one, duo. And so we have to really trust, as you mentioned, the cues that don't just come from like eye contact, that can come from really your sound. I mean,
Yeah.
you lead with your sound, Mimi, as you should, you know. So it was clear in moments to me where you were going to kind of put the end of the phrase, or, you know, and again, the other side, of course, is your breathing. For a wind player, is that it's very clear, or a singer, you know, when you're listening to the breath and listening to those kind of cues, then you can also um, guess where things should line up, you know? And I'm actually very lucky. One of my really best friends is also a flutist, Ray Ferruta. I think he's on now. I'm not sure if I think he might be on now. But anyway, he and I play together a lot. He's based out in California, but
Nice.
we played together for years as well. And so I think that for me, my sister was also a flutist. She did not go into that as a career, my younger sister. So anyway, I mean, just to say I'm a little partial, you know, to flutist, and I can read everything you're trying to show me without even looking. But anyway,
Absolutely.
those are some of the skills.
Well, thanks for that. Obviously, giving us space to breathe and everything. But like, even though I'm not looking at you, I'm constantly sensing you peripherally, like vision wise, and just like the physicality of it. Obviously, I hear you're playing, which is so different. But what's going to happen, and in good duos, we kind of feel it together in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But so it becomes like really interlocking. But that said, even though we don't look at the pianist in the eyes, except at rehearsal, and actually that's another thing I want to mention to Donna. Sometimes when I'm just playing with someone for the first time, it's actually really nice to just turn around and see them and get to know how they play, how they move, and then turn back around. So it's just like
yes,
a piece of the puzzle. But that said, like I'm kind of always
yes,
aware,
yes,
there,
yes.
there as well. Yeah, but actually, I'm glad you mentioned your sister, because I didn't see, and you've mentioned you have a duo with your pianist sister. So I'd
Yes.
love to hear about that. But I also would just be so interested in knowing how you got into music and how you chose piano as your voice.
Oh, yes. So I I came from a musical family, starting from my father, who is a just recently, literally this year, retired music teacher, K through 12 music, his whole career. And he taught really band, choir. He had a steel drum band, which was very unique and very fun to be part of when I was younger, and handbells, and he just had all these different ensembles over the years, and it was for every age from kindergarten through 12th. His major had been in percussion, so he wasn't a pianist, but you know, he just really, you know, he loved music. He really loved classical music and really understood the importance of it in his own children's lives. So my mother, who was actually majored in biology, also has a beautiful voice and knew a little bit of piano, but always regretted not really being pushed or given the opportunity, honestly, to excel in piano when she was young. And so she always wanted to have her kids make sure that piano was the first instrument we all started. So at any rate, I think, you know, and I think most musicians will tell some variation of a story where the parents understood the importance, right? And how much we can thank our parents for, you know, what we have today. But anyway, that's where it started from, just having, you know, music in the house from when I was in the womb, but at the same time knowing that at a certain point we would all learn piano. And for me, I was 6 when I actually formally started piano lessons. And yeah, I mean, I took off. I think one of the biggest things too was that there's 4 girls in my family. The eldest of us 4, she was already quite accomplished at the piano. When I was starting at 6, she was 12. So she was already quite accomplished. And I just wanted to be like her, you know, big sister. I wanted to catch up with her. And I think that that was a factor as well in what pushed me forward. But, you know, I had a good teacher throughout. But I don't know if you know this, but it was interesting because, again, one of the reasons I feel very comfortable and love collaborating was because I grew up playing so many instruments. Piano wasn't the only one. So I started violin at the same time as piano, and took lessons really all the way into college, played in youth orchestra, you know, and I was fairly accomplished, but I was much farther accomplished on the piano. And then I played trombone and in band, and then tuba in band, and for a couple of years, which was not by choice actually at that time. I wish I had Carol from the Philadelphia Orchestra as my role model at that time, because I didn't think that women played the tuba. So that's a whole other story. But so I grew up doing like all the ensembles because my father directed them. And I sing as well because we all sing in the choir. It was a very busy household of instruments. And so piano was definitely primary. I excelled the most at it. So it made sense that if I was going to choose an instrument to like make a career out of, it would be piano. But then, I missed playing in ensembles and in band and orchestra and all these things. And so I always sought out collaborations and ways to play with as many different instrument types as possible. And now today, my sister is still a very accomplished pianist. She went a different route than me in the sense that she wanted to kind of, she moved to North Carolina, to Asheville, where she lives. She wanted to start a family. She wanted to kind of have her own thing. So she actually opened a school, which has really grown over the years, a music school where she has piano, violin, guitar, all these different instruments, and many teachers that teach there. There's a couple locations in Asheville where students can come for lessons. So she runs this school, and she's actually expanding now to include like movement and art classes. So she's just a really wonderful entrepreneur in this way.
That's amazing. Well, it's so great that you
Yeah,
perform with your sister. But just going back to what you said about growing up playing every instrument, singing violin
yeah,
and trombone and tuba, that's really helps just be so well rounded. So many pianists don't play, other instruments. But it's a little similar in the sense that I started playing flute when I was 6, but my mom had started me on recorder when I was 5, and my older brother played clarinet like my mom. So I had a lot of music in the house and just kind of, exposure to it and falling in love with it. And I guess we're kind of a woodwind family in that sense, but I could totally relate to having also
yeah.
an older sibling as well and your parents leading you. That's so beautiful. And now you perform with your sister, which is really lovely.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. That now, even though she's doing her own thing there, we do meet and give performances as a duo, 2 piano team and 4 hands, which is fun because we're getting ready next month to do 2 concerts, 4 hand concerts. So it's very fun.
That is awesome, Michelle. And okay, lightning round, because it is December 16th. It is probably Beethoven's birthday, or at least it's when we think he was born because he was baptized tomorrow. Um, so let's ask you, favorite Beethoven piano concerto. Now we're getting to the really tough part of the interview.
Oh boy.
I know I sprung this on you. It's not exactly a pop quiz, but
Well,
okay.
I'll have to say, and I mean, maybe it's also because I've just been playing it so much lately, but I will have to say the Emperor
Emperor.
is my favorite. But I also am partial because it was my father's favorite when I was like, again, a baby. He would play the Emperor Piano Concerto all the time in the house, and so I just grew up with these melodies. And my sister, I have this distinct memory of when I was like 6 or 7, because I think she was 14, so I must have been like almost 8 actually. And she got to play with the orchestra at first movement, and I just remember hearing it and being so proud of her and so amazed. So anyway, I have a lot of connections to that. So Emperor will be the one.
I know. It's like, how do you even pick, right? But sometimes those personal stories will really, really kind of clinch it. But okay,
Yeah.
even more difficult. Favorite Beethoven piano sonata?
Oh wow. See, I can't choose that. I can't choose. There's just too many great ones. I mean, honestly, all of the late sonatas are just so
Mhm.
exquisite, so deep. So every time I hear them, I hear something else. So I'm talking about like 110, 111, 109, all of those. But then, gosh, what else can I say?
I mean, anyone listening could please chime in. Even just favorite Beethoven, Beethoven you want to
I,
hear.
there's
It's
just so
hard to
many.
do. But yeah, I was gonna say also symphony. We can do that together. It's hard, but like, do you have a symphony that is your favorite Beethoven,
I
Michelle?
don't. I don't have a favorite. No, I can't say that either because they're all. I mean, I can't. There's just there. It's he's a composer where it's hard to choose.
Yeah. Because this is how it goes. Like I was just talking about this with some friends. It was like favorite Beethoven symphony. Okay, I'm gonna go with 7 and 3 and
Huh?
6 and
Yeah,
5.
exactly.
Oh, but what about 9? And I love 4 and 2 and 1. And so that's kind of all. But I guess it just depends on the moment. It's very difficult, but it's kind of fun sometimes to just to shoot that out there. Yeah. Great. So anyway, we would love to hear any more questions or comments from Michelle Cann. What are you excited about that's coming up before we let you go?
Well, I have a couple of things in the new year. Specifically, some really fun collaborations with Imani Wins, doing some tour with them in January. They've been so great to work with. Such a great wind quintet.
They're great.
Very innovative group. And then I have, as I mentioned earlier, a duo with Ray Ferruta, who's on the call right now on flute. Then I also,
Hi.
yeah, I also play with a cellist, Thomas Mesa or Tommy Mesa, and we actually had made an album last year of. We did a commission. Well, I wouldn't call it commission. We sort of call for scores, and we asked for pieces by Black and Latinx composers of cello and piano works. And we got a lot of submissions, and we had to break them down to about 5. And we chose those for the album. And we loved the ones, I mean, there were so many great ones, but it was really fun because there was pieces that and composers I'd never heard of, specifically composers I'd never heard of. I didn't know the pieces, of course, as well, but we were so happy to promote their music, and we're performing some of those pieces that we had called for, and then some traditional, and so that's happening in January. And then a really fun thing is a recording I'm doing of a new album that'll come out next year, next month, of these transcriptions. I won't even call them transcriptions. They're really improvisations of various classical pieces that were done by a jazz Black pianist by the name of Hazel Scott. And she was from Harlem in the 1940s. I would say that's when she was famous, was in the 1940s. She was married to Adam Clayton Powell Jr., a very well-known civil rights activist, if you don't know. And she was this phenomenal prodigy that went to Juilliard at like the age of 8. They didn't even accept people that young. So she actually was accepted by a professor there and took lessons. And then she would go to rehearsals with her mom, who's a jazz player and played saxophone in bands. And she would hear the jazz and just improvise like that. And so she basically got famous. Art Tatum and Billie Holiday were big fans of hers and kind of promoted her and mentored her. And then she, broke out into the scene. So she would do these insane mashups of Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor and Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody, and break out into this stride jazz and all sorts of amazing variations on these pieces. Wow. And I came across them. She never wrote them out, but I got in touch with her son, and he's really excited. I'm going to re-record them in, more modern. I mean, they were from years ago, but I got somebody to write them out. We're going to try to get them published so people can play them, and just to promote her and her legacy.
That's so great, Michelle. So are those improvisations that she did and you're going to play those, or are you going to improvise as well?
I'm doing what she did. I wouldn't say that I'm doing much different than that. Yeah, there's a little bit, just because there's some that there's some things that we heard from her recording that we had to adjust, but it's mostly hers. It's it's to honor her. So it's just that when she recorded it, it wasn't even, all we have are these really old 78s, and it's you can't get the vitality of what she did from that. It's just it's nobody knows about these. So this will bring it more into modern ears, and at the same time, the part of it is transcribing it so that it can be played by others. So I'm very excited to be part of it.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly special. I can't wait to hear that. And thanks for sharing about your upcoming exciting projects. And thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me and share some of your beautiful performances. And such a pleasure. Just so you know, if anyone joined this late, it stays up as a video so you could revisit or share later on. And Michelle, I hope to see you soon. It was fun to meet really briefly. We were rehearsing at Curtis for a Dolce Suono Ensemble concert, so I think we had a quick hug a couple weeks ago. So next time will be good to chat more. But everyone, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all throughout the season, both for me and Dolce Suono Ensemble. And there'll be more exciting announcements for future Tea with Mimi episodes as well. So you can find us both on our respective websites and social media. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And once more, just so great to see you and hear you and chat again, Michelle.
Thanks again, Mimi. Thanks everyone for being here. And have a wonderful holiday as we head into the season.
Happy and healthy holidays for everybody too.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.